A woman named Christine brought her Great Dane puppy in at 8 months old. His name was Atlas, and when I watched him try to walk across the exam room floor, I had to pause and collect myself before I could speak. His front legs were bowing outward. His carpals, the joint just above his paws, were collapsing inward with each step. The clinical term is carpal valgus. In practice, it looks like a puppy whose body is falling apart from the inside before he's even finished growing. Christine was not neglectful. She was the opposite. She had researched breeds, bought the premium kibble, stuck to the feeding schedule, and then, wanting to do more, she had added a bone meal supplement to his food every morning. Calcium, she'd read, was good for growing bones, so more must be better. It wasn't. The damage we were looking at, the skeletal deformity, the joint destruction, that started quietly, somewhere around week 12. By the time it was visible, corrective orthopedic surgery was the only option remaining. Atlas was 8 months old. What Christine didn't know, and what I want to walk through carefully today, are 3 nutritional decisions that seem reasonable on the surface, that often come from good intentions, but that cause biological damage during the first year of a puppy's life that follows them for a decade. These aren't edge cases. I see versions of them every single week. The first one I want to address is the calcium mistake, and I'm starting here because it is the most counterintuitive, and in large and giant breed puppies, the most destructive. When you think about a growing puppy, the instinct is that more calcium means stronger bones. It makes sense on the surface. We tell children to drink milk. We associate calcium with skeletal strength. The logic feels airtight. Here's what changes everything. A puppy's intestinal tract is not a regulated system. An adult dog can detect excess calcium in the bloodstream and downregulate absorption. Essentially, the gut learns when to stop pulling calcium from food. Puppies cannot do this. Not in the first year. Their absorption is passive and almost indiscriminate. Whatever is in the food, the body takes. Think of it like a construction crew building a house. In an adult, the foreman is on site, managing materials. Too much concrete arrives. He sends it back. In a puppy, there's no foreman. The crew just uses everything that shows up, and when too much calcium floods developing bone tissue, it doesn't create stronger bones. It creates chaotic, irregular bone growth. The plates don't form correctly, the joints develop unevenly, the structure is compromised before the dog has ever finished being built. The specific condition this causes is called developmental orthopedic disease, DOD, and osteochondrosis dissecans, the joint variant, is irreversible in its severe forms. For large breed puppies, dogs expected to exceed 50 pounds at adult weight, the calcium in their food must fall within a very specific range on a dry matter basis. The ceiling for giant breeds is 1.5%. Anything above that and skeletal abnormalities become clinically predictable. The ratio of calcium to phosphorus must stay between 1.1 and 1.4.1. Those aren't suggestions. They are physiological thresholds. When Christine added bone meal to Atlas's already balanced kibble, she pushed those numbers past the threshold every morning for 5 months. And the damage accumulated silently because developing bone doesn't signal pain, not until the deformity has already set. Here's what I want you to do before the next time you feed your large breed puppy. Turn the bag over. Find the AFCO nutritional adequacy statement on the back label. If it reads, complete and balanced for all life stages, that food was not formulated for large breed puppy growth. It was formulated for small breeds, for adults, for maintenance. What you need to see, in those exact words, is including growth of large-sized dogs. That phrase means the calcium levels were specifically modeled for large breed skeletal development. One statement, 8 words, and it matters more than the brand name on the front of the bag. I had a patient, a Bernese mountain dog named Hector, whose owner, David, switched to the correct large breed formula at 4 months old when I caught the early signs in a routine X-ray. Hector's 6 months later was a different story. David sent me a video of him at his first birthday, Full gallop across a field, no compensation, no stiffness. That outcome was available because the window was still open. For Atlas, it wasn't. Now. The second mistake is less visible than the first, which is part of what makes it so significant, because by the time you notice it, the window where you could have prevented it has already closed. The brain of a puppy is not finished at birth. It isn't finished at 8 weeks. The central nervous system, the brain, the retinas, the neural pathways, completes its critical structural development during the first year of life. And the primary building material for all of it is a fatty acid called DHA, docosahexaenoic acid. DHA physically constructs the membranes of brain cells. It increases their fluidity, their ability to communicate with one another, the speed and efficiency of the signals running between them. Without adequate DHA during this developmental window, the brain is still building. It just builds with inferior materials. And the structure that forms in the first 12 months is largely the structure your dog carries for the rest of their life. Here's the part that stays with me. Most owners who supplement with omega-3s are unknowingly using the wrong form. They buy flaxseed oil because it's marketed as an omega-3 source. And flaxseed does contain omega-3 fatty acids, but in a form called ALA, which the dog's body must convert into DHA. Dogs do this conversion extremely inefficiently. The science on this is not ambiguous. The conversion rate in dogs is low enough that flaxseed oil as a DHA supplement is functionally insufficient for a developing brain. The source must be marine, fish oil, salmon oil, or algal oil. The DHA comes pre-formed and goes directly to work. The dosage is where most people underestimate. To cross the threshold for measurable cognitive benefit, and studies have quantified this, a developing brain requires at least 450 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily. For a small puppy under 25 pounds, 250 milligrams is the minimum. For a medium puppy between 25 and 50 pounds, 500 milligrams. For a large puppy over 50 pounds, 1,000 milligrams. These are daily numbers, not weekly, not occasional. And there's one technical detail about fish oil that changes whether any of this matters at all. Oxidation. Fish oil oxidizes. It goes rancid, faster than most people realize. Oxidized omega-3 is not neutral. It is pro-inflammatory. It works against the very biological process you're trying to support. The oil needs to be kept refrigerated from the moment you open it, and it should smell mildly of the ocean, not of last week's fish market. If it smells sharp or acrid, the lipids have broken down. Start a new bottle. I've put together a complete supplement and nutrition guide with exact sourcing criteria, brand-agnostic buying checklists, and weight-based dosing tables for puppies from 8 weeks through 12 months. The link is in the description. What I'm about to tell you now is, in my experience, the one that generates the most disbelief, because the danger is hiding inside something most owners consider a reward. The third mistake doesn't involve kibble formulation or supplement dosing. It involves a jar of peanut butter. And I want to ask you something before I go further. If you use peanut butter to stuff a Kong or as a training reward or to distract your puppy during nail trims, do you know what brand you're using? And have you read the ingredient label recently? Because in the last 10 years, food manufacturers have added a sugar substitute called xylitol to an expanding list of products, including many major peanut butter brands. It's marketed as a health improvement, lower sugar, better for dental health. In humans, it is largely harmless. In dogs, xylitol triggers a catastrophic insulin release from the pancreas. Within 10 to 60 minutes of ingestion, blood glucose crashes profoundly. The clinical term is severe hypoglycemia. The dog's cells begin to starve for glucose even while food is sitting in their stomach. If they survive the initial crash, and some don't, the compound then attacks the liver. Acute hepatic necrosis, complete liver cell death, often within 24 hours. The FDA's Center for Veterinary Medicine has issued multiple formal consumer warnings on this compound and has quantified its relative toxicity in dogs at roughly 100 times that of milk chocolate. What makes this especially dangerous now is the labeling. Xylitol increasingly appears on ingredient panels under different names: birch sugar, wood sugar, birch bark extract. These are xylitol. The word xylitol may not appear anywhere on the label of a product that contains it. A puppy's liver is not the liver of an adult dog. It's smaller relative to body weight, less metabolically resilient, and operating in the middle of a period of intense biochemical activity. The dose required to cause fatal toxicity in a large adult dog is already alarmingly small. In a puppy, it's smaller still. The peanut butter you need has one ingredient: roasted peanuts. Sometimes a small amount of salt. That's acceptable. That is it. No added sugar, no palm oil, and absolutely no birch sugar. You can find it in the natural food aisle of any standard grocery store, usually for between $4 and $8. Read the label every time. Manufacturers change formulations without changing packaging. I've seen this in my clinic. I have held a puppy in an acute hypoglycemic seizure while an owner stood outside the door who had used the same peanut butter for 3 months without incident. And then the formula changed. The puppy survived barely, with aggressive IV dextrose therapy. Many don't reach the clinic in time. What connects all 3 of these mistakes, the calcium overload, the missing DHA window, the xylitol exposure, is that none of them are visible in the moment they're happening. The bones don't signal their own deformity. The brain doesn't announce that it's building with inferior materials. The liver doesn't warn you before it begins to fail. The first year of a puppy's life is a one-time window. The skeletal architecture that forms in those 12 months is the architecture the dog carries for 10 or 15 years. The neural wiring laid down in that period is the cognitive baseline they live within for their entire life. And the liver that a 6-month-old puppy has is vulnerable in ways that an adult dog's liver is not. Christine called me about 2 weeks after Atlas's surgery. He was recovering slowly. She asked me the question I've heard more times than I can count. Why didn't anyone tell me calcium could do this? I didn't have a good answer. I still don't. What I can tell you is this: large breed puppy food with the right AFCO statement, marine-sourced omega-3 oil kept refrigerated and dosed correctly by weight, and a jar of peanut butter whose only ingredient is peanuts. These are not complicated interventions. They cost what you're already spending. The difference is knowing what to look for on the label. If you're not sure whether your current setup is right for your specific puppy's breed and growth trajectory, bring these questions to your vet. Write them down if you need to. Your vet knows your dog's history, their projected adult weight, their current development milestones. Bring them better questions, and they will give you better answers. That is how this is supposed to work. The window that Atlas lost is still open for most of the dogs watching this right now.